Hello and welcome. This is Adil, your instructor. We are discussing about Python collection since last session. In the last session, we have discussed about the list, which is one of the important Python collection. And we have also discussed that there are 4 different collections available in Python. They are list, tuple, set, and dictionary. In the last lecture, we have talked about the list. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about the tuple. So as we know, there are different properties that we have to find it out, and we have to cross verify all those things. So for list, the list is ordered, again it is indexed, and it is changeable, and it allows the duplicate members. So we have tested all these properties in last session. This time we are talking about this tuple, and now it is ordered. Now as it is ordered, it will follow a particular order, and as it has the order, it will be indexed, so we can provide some indexing to it. Secondly, this will be not the changeable. That's the only difference between list and tuple. The list elements are changeable, but these elements are not changeable. So tuple elements cannot be changeable. So what do I mean by this particular thing? So when I say the tuple is not changeable, number 1, you can't add additional elements to tuple. Number 2, you can't delete or remove a particular element from the tuple. And number 3, you can't change the value of particular element from the tuple. So these are the properties which makes tuple unchangeable or not changeable. And as far as the list is concerned, it is completely changeable, so we can add extra element in the list. Even we can delete some element from the list, and we can actually modify the value of element in the list. Secondly, the duplicate members are still allowed inside the tuple. So this is similar to that of list. So this particular property matches with the property of list. We have discussed list with these various parameters, like how we can provide some indexing, how to access different elements or items from the list. And as far as the tuple is concerned, we are going to process in this particular fashion. So initially we'll try to access the items from the tuple. So we'll provide some indexing, and we'll try to access a particular element. We'll try to print a particular item or element from the tuple. Number 2, we are going to check whether it's possible to change the item value. So I have purposefully marked it as red, indicating that this is not allowed inside the tuple, but still we'll do some experimentation. We'll test it whether it is possible to change the value of item inside the tuple. Then as usual, we'll provide some looping structure over this tuple. Secondly, we'll check whether a particular element is present inside the tuple or not. So this is the searching operation that we are going to operate on this tuple. And at the end, we'll find out the length of the tuple. So as we know, the length function can be used here to calculate the number of elements inside this tuple. We can add, or we'll try to add item or extra element inside the tuple. This time also I have marked this point as red, because this is also not allowed inside the tuple, and even the removing a particular item is also not allowed inside the tuple. So we'll test these things whether we are able to make changes in the tuple or not. And at the end, we'll discuss how we can join 2 different tuples. So as far as the list is concerned, everything is about the tuple. Everything will be stored in the rounded bracket. So let's do this, and let's open the Python programming software ideally, and there we are going to discuss, or we are going to do some experimentation on the tuple. So as usual, in the last lecture we have declared z equals to, in a square bracket, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now once I declare something like this, automatically this becomes the list if you print the type of it. So type of z, you can get it as list. But if I declare the same thing in this particular bracket, 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, this time the only difference is the rounded brackets. The previously I was using the square bracket. This time I'm talking about the rounded brackets. And if I print this thing, the type of this thing, type of Z, now you can clearly identify it's a tuple, it's not the least. In the last case, when I have printed the type of this thing, now it was least. This time, as I'm printing the type of this thing, Z, it is tuple. Why? Because I'm using the rounded brackets. Previously I have used these square brackets, that's why it is least. And this time if you declare anything in a rounded bracket, that becomes tuple. Now one of the important property of tuple is that it is ordered. That means it follows a particular order. So in order to verify that, I'll take a tuple A and I'll store some values 1, 2, 3, and I'll hit enter. Now this is one tuple. Again I'll take another tuple called B, and here I'll store some 2, 1, 3 random value, or the same values but in different order. Now as you can see here, this particular tuple also stores 1, 2, 3, and again this tuple stores 1, 2, 3 only, 1, 2 and 3, but their order is different. So the tuple is ordered. That means it has a particular dedicated order. So if this is true, then A should not be equals to B. So if I write like this, the result of this statement should be false in order to justify this thing. So let's check it. It should print false, and here we go. So it is printing false. That means the tuple is ordered, and this is the same property as that of the least. The least is also ordered and the tuple is also ordered. So here the A is not equal to B, that means it is ordered. And as it is ordered, we can provide some indexing. So before providing indexing, let's check one more property, that it allows duplicate members. The tuple allows duplicate members. So let's say I declare a tuple like 1, 2, 2, 3 and 3. So here there are 6 different elements, but this 1 is repeated, this 2 is repeated, and again this 3 is also repeated. So there are some duplicate elements inside this tuple. So if I hit enter, will it accept it? So it has accepted it, but whether it has accepted it, can be verified by printing the value of A. So if I print A, it should give all the elements. That means this allows duplicate members. So we have also verified the another property of tuple, that it allows duplicate members. Now number one property is that it is ordered. It follows the particular order. If you put different same elements in different order, that will create a different tuple, and both the tuples will not be equal. Now the next important property is to provide indexing or accessing the elements from this tuple. Now as the tuple is ordered, definitely it will have some index. So I'll declare one more tuple, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this is an our regular tuple, and now let's provide some indexing. So if I print Z of 0, now as usual, and this is at index 0, so it should print 1. Now you may wonder why I'm using these square brackets here. As it is tuple, I should use the rounded brackets. So this square bracket has nothing to do with the tuple or least. It is basically indexing. So this bracket is something related to indexing. It is not related to the tuple and the least. So that's why this will be square bracket always. Okay, even you are using the least or tuple or set or dictionary, always this will be a square bracket. Now if I hit enter, it should print 1, and here we go. So if I print Z of 4, which is the last element 5, because this is Z of 0, Z of 1, 2, 3 and 4, it should print 5. And if I print Z of 6, which is not the index, this index is not available as far as this tuple is concerned, because the maximum index is 4. Even if I write 5, then also this index is unavailable for this particular tuple. So it should raise index error, index not found, or index out of range. So here we go. As usual, the tuple index out of range error we have received. Now, as we know, the tuple also follows the negative indexing as well, and it starts from the right side. So this is at -1, this is at -2, this is at -3, this is at -4, and this is at -5. So if you print z of -1, it should print the rightmost element, which is 5. And if you print z of -5, it should print the leftmost element of your tuple, and this is 1. So this is how the negative indexing is also possible for this tuple, and the positive indexing is also possible. The positive index starts from the left hand side, so this is at 0, and the negative index starts from the right hand side, and the first index is -1 in case of that. And in case of positive index, the first index is always 0, that we already familiar with. Now, is it possible to print some range of values, or is it possible to give a range of indexes? So yes, it is possible. You can provide some range also. So here I'll write print z of, and I'll give initial index as 0 and the final index as 4. So I am expecting that it should print from 0 to 4, but obviously the last element will be skipped and it is not included. So it should print from 0 to 3. So it should print 0, this is 1, and this is 2, and this is 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4 must be the output of this expression, and here we go 1, 2, 3, 4. As the value stored at 4th index is not included, it is excluded from the printing point of view. Similarly, I can give another indexes as well, but before that I'll try if I do not give the first index, what will happen, and I give the last index. So if you write like this, automatically the first index will be assumed to be 0, or the leftmost index, and it will print it. And if you do not give the last index, then also don't worry, and it will actually consider the final value. So in this case it should print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it starts from the 0 and the last index is not given, so it will print the final value. Now if I miss both the indexes, then also no worries, it will print all the values from 1 to 5. So this is how the positive indexing works, and we can also test this for negative indexing as well. Secondly, we can also write the third parameter in indexing like this, z of 0 to, let's say, 5, and then I'll write here 2. But default, this is the increment or the step size. The default step size of this thing is always 1 plus 1. This time I'm giving 2, so the default step size will be 2. Now what will happen because of this? Now initially it will print the first value, or the value at index 0, so that is 1. Then it will jump by 2, then it will print 3, and again it will take a jump of 2, so it will print this 5, and after that it will terminate its execution. So here we go, 1, 3, and 5. So this is how you can print some values between that particular range. So this is again an interesting thing in case of the Python tuple. Now if I provide a range of negative indexes, so whether it will be possible for me, so yes it is. So you can give the negative indexing like this, -4 to -1, and then you can print it like this. So here we go 2, 3, and 4. So -4, this is actually -1, this is -2, -3, -4 is 2. Then as usual the default increment is 1, so it will be incremented by 1. So -4 plus 1, -3. So this is at -3, so it will be printed. Then plus 1, that will be -2, that will be printed. So 4 is printed, but -1 is not printed because this is the last index, and this is not included in printing. So this is how you can provide a negative indexing as well. And in case of negative indexing as well, you can skip some index, and that will also work. Now we'll discuss how we can reverse the elements from this particular list, or how to reverse this particular tuple. So you can write like this: print z of no index and even no second parameter, and the third is -1. So step size is -1. So if you provide step size -1 for the tuple, it will reverse all the elements inside this tuple, or it will reverse this particular tuple. And here we go, it is printing in the reverse fashion: 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. So here we have tested the one of the important property of tuple, that it is the ordered and it is changeable. So sorry, not the changeable, it is indexed. So the tuple is ordered, that means it follows the particular order, and as it follows the particular order, we can provide some indexing. And as far as the indexing is concerned, there are two different approaches to provide the indexing. The number one is positive index, and both the things, and this is how the tuple is ordered and indexed. So now it's time to check the one of the important property of this tuple, which is whether it is changeable. So as far as the definition is concerned, tuple is not changeable. And when I say it is not changeable, that means number one, you cannot add an element inside the tuple. This is number one. Number two, you cannot delete any element from this tuple. And number three, even you cannot change any value, or any element's value cannot be changed in the tuple. So let's declare a tuple one more time in order to simplify our operation. 1, 2, 3, 4 and the 5, and hit enter. Now I want to change the value of this thing, value of 2. So this 2 is at index 1. So I want to change this thing, z of 1 equals to 6. Now this expression I'll write here. Now in case of list, this was a valid statement and it has accepted this thing, and it has printed this thing. Okay, so it has worked and it has printed, or it has changed the value of 2 in case of list. Now we are going to do the same thing in case of tuple, and whether it's going to work, that we'll check right now. So here we go, there is a type error. Tuple object does not support item assignment. That means this particular assignment is not supported by the tuple, and this was expected, that this is not changeable. So here the first thing is tested, that you cannot change value of element inside the tuple. Now the next important thing, is it possible to append some value? Let's say I add 6 at the end. So in case of list, this has worked and it has successfully added an extra element at the end of your list. But this time we are not discussing the list, we are talking about the tuple. Now we are talking about it is unchangeable, and if it is unchangeable, now we are going to check whether it will allow to add or append an extra element inside this. So if I able to append this thing to this, then the final value of tuple will become 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So whether it's going to happen, let's check. And as far as the definition is concerned, the tuple is unchangeable, it is not changeable. That means this operation must lead to an error, or it should raise an error. And here we go, the attribute error, tuple object has no attribute append. So this is how it is unchangeable. Now we have also tried insert, and this time it is possible to provide some index. So this is an index. At this particular index I want to add an element like this, 6. Now we'll check whether, though the append method is not working, so can this method is going to work, or it's going to raise an error. So as far as our experience is concerned, and as far as the definition of tuple is concerned, that should refer to an error, or it should lead to an error, as the tuple is unchangeable. And here we go again, the same error, attribute error, tuple object has no attribute insert. So here we have tested that the number one property is that the tuple cannot be changed. That means the value of particular element like this cannot be changed, and secondly it's not possible to add an extra element inside it by using this append method also, and even by using this thing also. Now let it be, we can't change the value, we can't add extra value, but is it possible to remove a particular element or delete some items from the tuple? So if I do like this z.pop, now initially when I was talking about list, this method has worked and it has successfully deleted the last element from the list. But this time, as we are talking about this tuple, whether it's going to delete this 5, so that's what we are going to check. So as per the definition is concerned, you cannot delete a particular element from the tuple, so it should raise the error. And here we go again, the same error, attribute error. You cannot use this particular pop method or pop attribute for this tuple. So this is how it's not possible to delete a particular element from this particular tuple. So that's a very much interesting thing. But in case of the list, we have tried this thing. We have tried to use this method, pop method, and as usual it has deleted the last element from the list. But in this case it is not allowing us to do so. It's not allowed to delete or remove a particular element from that. Even if you provide pop method with some index, let's say 2 or 1, it should delete the item at index 1 in case of list, but this is not valid for the tuple. And here we go again, the same error. We also discussed this remove method, and in case of this remove method, you have to provide a specific item. So for example, I want to remove 5, and if I hit enter, again the same error. It is having the attribute error, tuple object has no attribute remove. So here we have tested that you cannot add an extra element, you cannot delete an element from the tuple, and you cannot change or modify element value inside the tuple. So this states that it is completely unchangeable. But wait, there is one more method is remaining, delete. Delete z of, let's say, 1. Now whether it's going to operate on it, again it's an error, type error, but this error is giving some hint to us. Now clearly when I have done this thing, so it says that it doesn't have an attribute remove, doesn't have attribute pop, no attribute pop, and so on, or even the no attribute insert. This time it is saying something different. It's not saying that it's not deletable. It's saying that tuple object doesn't support item deletion. That means item deletion is not supported, but the complete tuple deletion is possible. So you can delete the complete tuple, and here we go, it has worked. And if you try to print z, this time it will raise an error that it is unknown, name error. So name z is not defined. So this is how we cannot delete a particular element from the tuple, but entire tuple can be deleted by using delete method. Okay, so this is how the tuple is unchangeable. So we have tested all the properties of tuple. Now number one property that we have tested is it is ordered. Number two, we have tested that the duplicate elements are allowed inside the tuple. And number three property, we have tested that it has some indexing, or we can provide some positive as well as the negative index to the tuple. And finally we have tested that it is unchangeable, and that's the only difference between list and tuple. So now next what we are going to do, so I'll declare tuple one more time. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this time I'll try to operate a for loop on this. So as usual, I'll write like this, x in z, and I try to print all the elements by using this x. and now I'll test it whether it's working. So now this time it's working. So operating for loop, it's straightforward and you can actually operate like list. Now is it possible to check if a particular element is there or it's present inside the tuple or not? For example, I want to check whether this 4 is in this particular tuple or not. So in case of other programming languages, you have to use the multiple for loops and decision control statements to do this in order to search a particular element inside the tuple. But as it is the Python, you need a single line code, and this will give you true or false. So as the 4, clearly 4 is present inside this tuple, so it should return true. But if I try to check 6 in Z, which is not the 6, the element 6 is not the member of this particular tuple, so in this case the result has to be false. And here we go. So simple in operator, this is membership operator actually in Python. If you recall this thing, or if you remember this thing from the operators in the Python episode, so there we have discussed the membership operators in Python, and there are two different operators in that category. The number one is in operator and the second one is not in operator. So if I write like this, 4 not in Z, so this means it's going to check whether the 4 is not present in Z, but 4 is there, so the result of this thing should be false, as the 4 is the member of your tuple. And here we are getting this false result. So this is how the membership operators are going to work, and basically they are used to search a particular element inside the tuple or even inside the list. And also we'll do this for the set as well, set and dictionary as well in future. Now the next is to find out the length of the tuple. As usual, we'll take a help of the one of the important function of that we are using. So that is nothing but the length function. So print length of Z should give us the number of elements present inside this tuple. So as far as this tuple is concerned, as you can see here, there are 5 different elements, and if I calculate the length of this tuple, it is returning 5 as a result over here. So this is how we can actually calculate the length of our tuple. Now it's now very much important to understand that we have tested almost all the properties of tuple. We have started with order, that the tuple is ordered. So if I declare the same elements in 2 different tuples with different order, then both the tuples are not equal. Secondly, the tuple also allows the duplicate elements inside it. So we have tested that using some duplicate elements in some tuple, and it has allowed, so it allows duplicate members. And this property is similar to that of list, and again the ordering and indexing is exactly similar to that of list. But when we try to change a value of particular element from the tuple, it has raised the error. Secondly, when we try to add extra element inside the tuple, again it has raised the error. And also whenever we have tried to delete or remove a particular element from the tuple, it has raised the error. So that clearly says that the tuple is not changeable. Now this time, as in the previous case or in case of list, we have discussed how to join 2 different lists together using a simple concatenation operator or plus operator. So is it possible here also to use the same thing? So for example, if I have a equals to in bracket 1, 2, 3, now this is my tuple 1, and I have b equals to another tuple like 4, 5, 6, and if I have to join these together to form a third one, c, So in case of list, we have done like this: a plus b, and this is not the addition operator or not the arithmetic operator for this. So whenever you have this list and tuple or the string, this operator is concatenation operator, or it's a joining operator. So this time it should join this with this, and finally we should get the complete result. So print C if you do, and if you print it out, then you'll check it out that all the elements are now stored in a single tuple. So this is how the joining is very straightforward. Concatenation is very much straightforward. In case of other programming languages like C, if we have to join two different arrays, then you will have to use the for loops, and using for loops you can join or concatenate two different arrays, or two different list or tuples, what we can say. But in case of Python, a single operator is sufficient to do the same task. So this was all about the tuple in Python, and we have discussed list and tuple. In the last session we have discussed the list, and this time we have discussed everything about the tuple. In the next lecture we are going to discuss about the set, which is quite different than the list and tuple. So as far as the list and tuple is concerned, both were almost similar to each other. There was only one difference, but when I'll talk about the set, it is completely different than the list and tuple. The only similarity is that it also allows the multiple elements. So as like list and tuple, which can hold the multiple values at a time, the set also holds the multiple values at a time, but it doesn't allow any duplicate members. Secondly, it is not completely changeable, and it doesn't have any order. As it doesn't have any order, it doesn't have any kind of index. So stay connected with me, and thanks for watching.